back, folks. Welcome back to Roadside Nuggets. My name is Georgie Boy, and I will be guiding you this evening on a wonderful adventure. Give me 1 second and get the Telegram thingy up and decide to cancel itself out. So, putting it back online. There we go. It's the 28th, is it not? Yes, it is. All right. Boom, beautiful. And we're back live on Telegram. Welcome back, folks. Love you all. Hope everyone's doing wonderful in these energies on this beautiful Tuesday. Got some things to talk about. I feel like, everyone, especially a lot of people out there who's been, watching the signs, been paying attention to all the different postings, everything that's going on with the collective news, things about Trump coming around, happening. Oh, which rehearts me about something too. And let me see if I can still do that. But yeah, it also, there's a lot about to hit the fan, basically. There's a lot of things, with what people are just getting, it's not even just people getting fed up. It's things that are getting to a point that they've been having years and years in the making of building up this awareness, things leaking out over different moments of time, and it's getting humanity ready, getting the collective prepared for what is coming, and it's a lot. And also with, just the different things they have already disclosed, it's also to test the collective and as an experiment in a lot of ways to see what the collective is capable of handling. Is this too much for them? Is this too intense? Is this the kind of thing that sends them completely berserk and they act like rash animals? It definitely is. It's like a double-edged sword. It's like they don't want to tell you, but they do have to tell you. But at the same time, it's also what the collective is able to handle at the same time. And we have been blowing things out of proportion. Humanity is so dramatic on so many levels, but it's just like when something happens, it's like, oh my God, and just like explosion and confusion, anxiety and panic. It's like when we can start getting to like the real nitty gritty stuff, the details, like that's deep, that's intense, So if this is how you're handling things from the surface, you're gonna have a hard time once we get more further into disclosure and really start sharing what's been going on. I just feel it's important. It's a very important rule of, thumb. Unmute. There we go. Oh, I guess it wasn't recording. I don't know. Sorry, folks. I love you all. Anyways, what I was saying is, and especially with everything with this COVID, like you have locked people in their homes for almost 2 years now, off and on. And I guess it also depends on where you are in the country and also in other countries. Other countries are having it way worse. They're like the suppression and lockdown and what's, being mandated and forced is not pretty, and so it's getting people, it's like, how much can you take before you break, or before you just like dig your heels in the sand and be like, no, enough, no more, I'm not dealing with this no more. That's the breaking point of where the humanity is getting pushed to, because like humanity won't make a choice. It's so hard for us to make a choice, a decision to stick with it without all the doubts and anxiety and just constant lack of faith, needing someone else to accept it or confirm it for us to stick with it. It's like, it's so hard, but yet it's something that we have got to do, because and that's what the energies are pushing us to at this point, is where, oh man, I thought this cord was charging. It's not. And that's what the energies are pushing us to, is it's pushing you to realize, it's pushing you to accept. And if you won't internalize it, at some point it's gonna externalize itself for you to see it. And that's what's taking place on a collective scale for everybody, on a worldwide stage play, where these things are being put right in front of our faces So we can't deny them. We can't avoid them at all. These are things we must look at. We must reflect, contemplate about, and feel into it. Why we are here at this point, why this is even our life, and why we're dealing with it. Because at some point, we are responsible, right? And just with everything, it's and you can say everything in like a very in general term. It's like, oh, COVID, like shots. It's a lot more than that, because this is affecting everyone's life in a lot of different ways. Children in school, and just what people are able to do. In some places, I guess cities or even states, it's like you have to have the vaccination apparently, or you can't go to the grocery store. You can't get food for your family. You can't get gas. You can't go in the store and buy necessities or resources. That's interesting. It's like, why would you? I understand if it was something meant for the public's health, yes. And it was so dire for everyone to be on these vaccinations, and it was, it was going to save everyone and keep everyone healthy. And it's like, why are you bullying the collective? If it was so detrimental to someone's health, and like it's absolutely, it's the scare of the century. Like, you got to have this vaccination or you could die. It's like, but then if it's that extreme, why do you have to bully the collective at the same time into doing it? It's like, oh, well, if you don't go do that, then you're not going to get any of this stuff. That's extortion. Did anyone know? It's been years, since I looked at a dictionary, but I'm pretty sure that's like extortion. Like, I got to give something of myself to you in order for me to be able to have access to this. It's like this old childhood game we used to play with, each other, or, mean people on the playground, where it was a total extortion. Making you give of your own self and your toys and just what is yours, and it's like in order to exchange, just so you can have what you wanted, and it's like it's a plot. It's totally a plot. Knowing exactly you need to eat, you need to drink water, you need to support yourself, bathe yourself, you probably need to get new necessities. Like, they know you need these things. They know these are important to you. So, of course, they're going to directly attack these specific things in order to cause that disshuffleness, that instability, the fear, the lack consciousness, where there's not enough. And so you have to either get it all, or, get it all, or, you sit in panic with what you have, and you barely use it, or you don't use it. You hoard it, because you're so scared of it disappearing, but at the same time, it's like you're not using it. So what's the point of having them? It's useless energy at the end of the day. And I feel this is really big for a lot of us, because a lot of people are really good observers. They watch all the time. They're always watching, right? But too much of the time, we get too much into watching all the time and not acting, not applying yourself, not moving through the actions and actually moving through the experience. It's like this sideline critic type experience. Even if you're not being, criticizing about, yourself or other people's experience, you still choosing to be on the sideline. It's just trying to sit out the inevitable. It's your experience too. You have to participate. And this is what I feel. It's like the catalyst. It's pushing everything to the surface. Everything's gonna hit the fan at some point, where it's gonna directly affect everyone, yes, in their lives. Because, again, the COVID and everything else that's been happening has been causing a lot of stress, a lot of aggravation on families and different people, and people who have gotten sick, the people who have died. What if it wasn't COVID? What if it wasn't anything that had anything to do with the disease? What if those people died of natural causes or something else? But since it was classified as that deathly whatever disease thing, it's like the way those people were treated, the way the families were treated, when the families wanted to visit with these people or be with them in their last moments, it's like the way they were treated. And it's just total, that wasn't an experience anybody wanted to go through. And then come to find out that person probably never had COVID to begin with. So, all the quarantine and all you got to be outside the room, you can't be in here, all this other stuff. It's like at some point, you're going to piss somebody off, right? There's already a lot of people. And once the collective lets on to realizing that this thing's been a massive sham. You know, I mean, the doctors are already coming out talking about the different, you know, there's so many, I know, there's so many results, you know, now that, you know, they were saying that all these other deaths and just like illnesses and things that were happening in the hospital, they weren't COVID, but the people were putting down on the records COVID. So if it wasn't COVID, and then like you force people to go through more strenuous experiences, more extreme experiences that they didn't have to go through, it's like you're gonna boil someone's blood out there. It's gonna get people really, really, you know, triggered. You know, it's gonna cause a counteracting energy to take place. And I feel, and this is important to realize that, you know, you're only gonna take so much before you're gonna get your balls, before you're gonna get your voice, before you're gonna stand on your 2 feet and speak up for yourself and say, no, I've had enough, and you push back, you know, and have that self-empowerment within yourself, not to be constantly, you know, suppressed and dominated by outside forces and other people, but be able to stand in your own lane, your own energy, your own power, your own heart, and be able to speak, you know, your own truth. That's important. That's what ultimately energy is pushing everyone to get to doing for themselves, because we can rely too much on other people or on a system, too much outside of ourselves, that we must learn now to begin to empower ourselves and learn how to move with that within ourselves and trust that. You know, that is definitely a big lesson coming up for the whole collective in many ways. And we can't be dodging lessons. They are important for all of us. Interesting video I wanted to share real quick for everybody. 1 second. Okay, here we go.
Okay guys, this is Monday, September 27th. I'm inside Target here. And things are definitely low. You know, like you can see here, even dog toys, you know, like empty shelves. This is kind of like the milk section. You can see the meat over here. It's all pretty low, and there's just, you know, you can see like whole sections are just empty. And, you know, they got eggs, but you know, here's the dairy, kind of. So they got milk, but not, you know, it's nothing like it used to look like. You know, frozen food section here. It's low, and you can even see like, even like, you know, if you look like, even like, you know, there's only 2 or 3 items back stock, so things are definitely getting low here. No doubt about it. It's Target, and yeah, look at this. Ingredients in the market. Okay. So yeah, you can see pretty low here in the food section, and the shelves throughout Target are also low. You know, not but looking apocalyptic. Man, what do you think about all these shelves being kind of low on food? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on it.
What do you think?
Shop, because I'm a ship shopper.
A ship shopper?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I shop for people. It's an app.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what are you finding in your experience, like?
That a lot of things are not on the shelves.
What's causing that?
Well, the only thing I can say is that apparently the problem is that the ships can't get into port because of the COVID situation and the lack of workers. That's what it seems.
Do you know where to find COVID?
COVID? Where to find COVID?
Yeah.
I don't want to find COVID.
But if you were to look for it, do you know where you'd find it, maybe?
Probably in the hospital.
See, I've been to hundreds of hospitals, it's not there. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah, and all these shelves are low, so. Okay, thank
I
you.
don't know, that's all I know.
Yeah, thanks for the insights. Yeah, there's all, you know, even the booze is getting low, which I don't see a lot. Usually the booze, gambling, lottery tickets, those are in great supply. But yeah, I mean, every aisle you walk down here has got something low. Even the seasonings here, guys. I mean, look, you know, even the seasonings. And then here we got, I don't know, this looks like a Gatorade section or something low. So yeah, it's getting low. Oh, we got the Halloween section. I wonder if it's as terrible as the Home Depot I saw a while back. And that's the latest, guys, here from Greenville area, just outside Greenville, South Carolina. This is what it's looking like. So yeah, look, I mean, it's everywhere, all the way through here. There's just empty shelves. Here, the Halloween section. This looks kind of ramshackle. Look, it's just kind of thrown together, some stuff, not other stuff. So yeah, that's what it looks like, you know. Bizarro land, upside down world. That's what we're living in. Apocalyptic.
No, I'm not really one to like support the whole apocalyptic timeline, whatever fantasy. Don't really care for it. Never was really into zombies or anything like that. But for the sake of this video, it was very interesting because like you can understand it in a certain way. You gotta put yourself in certain shoes, right? Look at it this way. If I had a whole population that was already conditioned and programmed off of fear, lack consciousness, now if I wanted to incite an illusion or to motivate, say, the collective in a certain way, I wanted them to move or react a certain way. Say, maybe I'll block the ports. Maybe I'll put a stop to that, halt them. Therefore, the stores can't replenish their shelves. So once the shelves don't look like they're full, because you're in America, everything's supposed to be accessible, right? In America, heaven forbid if we start walking in stores and shelves look a little empty. Oh, if we might have a panic or meltdown, right? That's the thing. So to start to shatter people's illusion also at the same time is like going to a store that is hollow, that is more like an empty shell. Like you see a shelf and there's barely anything on it. It's like, very limited food resources. So like you start to incite this energy, this fear, this lack consciousness, there's not going to be enough energy where people start to see that. And, people start talking about it like, oh, this store was bare. Yeah, this store's empty shelves were empty. Yeah, like I don't know, they're not getting any more shipments in. And you start causing a panic because people, even things they don't even need right now, but just the fear that there's not going to be enough or that it might disappear and you're not going to have any. Oh man, it'll trip somebody out to the point where they'll just like overexert themselves and just go crazy. Buy a bunch of shit they absolutely don't need. But this is like a game that they're playing with the collective too. It's like it's getting the collective on their toes. It's getting them to walk on eggshells basically. And getting them to believe that the apocalyptic timeline is upon us and it's about to happen, and you better get your toilet paper and get enough water, get all canned foods and stuff. And it's ridiculous how many times have we been through this? Honestly, ask yourselves, over the last 10, 15 years, how many times have we been through a scenario like this through the years where something like this happens and people go crazy? They go to the store, they buy all this crazy shit, they don't need it. And then it's like, and then you always have those news reporters afterwards are like, oh, well, so-and-so all this toilet paper was bought. It's like a crazy amount of toilet paper. Like, why do people buy this much? Do they really need this much toilet paper? No, they didn't. They sat there and thought like some kind of thing was going to happen. They were going to be stuck in some dome for 6 months with no light of day, and they're going to be shitting in a corner in a pot, and they're going to have to survive some outrageous extremes. It's like, where are you people at with this? Are you that helpless to the point where like you've just written yourself off and it's like, this is it for me. Yep. I've got my little shack, got my little gun. I'm just going to stake it out for however long I got to. That's retarded. Like nobody wants that experience at all. But also, too, these are the fantasies. These are the paranoias that humanity has from watching scary movies, from watching all that crap on TV and filling their minds with all these different visions and images and things, to where when these situations start getting triggered in your actual real-time reality, it's like, whoa, like people start going to the only thing they have an abundance of right now at this point is fearful thoughts, is anxiety, is scary things that their mind puts together out of all the imagination they've just sucked and absorbed out of that crap, all those like killing games and everything like that. That's all your mind has to construct fantasies and different things, thought loops that just get in your way and distract you and cause more anxiety on top of that you don't need. But this is what's happening, and they realize this. They realize they have an entire population that is just on the edge, and all they have to do is a certain amount of little triggers start poking certain holes, and the collective starts flying off the handle, because we're not stable, we're not centered. We are not fully conscious and aware of what we are. I wouldn't say consuming, but just a lack of awareness of what we are interacting with energetically and what that is causing to change in our energy and our vibration. And where your thoughts are most of the time, the energy exposure you have most of the time, that's mostly your orientation as well. So if you are in lower frequencies most of the time, if you are, attracted to low things, or, scary movies, killing, blood, gore, and like that's just your main thing all in most of the time, like that's your vibrational orientation as well. There's a deep part of yourself that's like vibrating from a core in that area. And that's something to look at. It's something to be aware of, because, as I said yesterday, the people that can sit in front of like, I used to like be spun how someone is sitting in front of like a scary movie, gory, like bloody, just really gross. And like they could eat a meal. They'd be eating dinner while watching that. Like eyes fully glued to the TV, like looking at all the and they're just like eating food. I'm like, how do you do that? Like my stomach would be turning, But this is how numb and shut off people are. These things just don't affect them anymore because they're just literally numb. It has nothing to do with them having a strong stomach. It has nothing to do with them being like all just like tough and like, brave. Like we've delusioned ourselves in a lot of ways of what things are just to get by. And it feels big. It's a big thing to look at in psychology, but just with ourselves, our own self-manipulation. Where things are truly traumatic, they don't make us feel good. They scare us. They trigger our fear and anxiety and stress. But then we'll lie to even ourselves, and we'll play it off as something else, even to yourself. It's like there's nobody around you're putting the show on for, but you're still manipulating yourself, trying to pretend like it's nothing. And this is where we get deeper in being more numb, more disconnected from ourselves, disassociated, where when these experiences are happening, it's like we're literally going through pain and suffering and not even realizing it. Because that's how like just completely off center we've become. And so when we start becoming aware and waking up to these things don't feel good. And that's what I explained this a while ago, where when people start waking up, like this very crazy experience happens where, yes, your sensitivity and your awareness starts to rise. However, at the same time, we've existed down here in a very dense environment, and we're very pain and suffering orientated. Our life is based out of it. So when you start becoming vibrationally sensitive and aware to things, a lot of the first frequencies you're going to start picking up on and processing and experiencing more of is, of course, going to be of lower nature. And that's what a lot of people don't like. It's what spins them out. It's what, especially for very sensitive, empathic people, it's, it turns them off to it. They ultimately stop practicing. They stop going forward in their spiritual practice and try just to walk away from it, because it just causes certain, uncertain feelings and things to come to the surface they're just not ready to deal with. And that's it. It's just something. It's just part of awareness. It's just something you have to be aware of, that this is just part of the process. We have come through a very fucked up life. So of course, as you start to wake up and your body starts to be sensitive and feel more things, a lot of the first things you're gonna experience are probably of that lower nature as it starts to filter out and release. So it's probably not going to be this beautiful rainbow unicorn dragon ride through the sky. It's probably not going to be some magical experience like that, of course. That's probably why a lot of people go through the dark night of the soul so early while they start waking up, because that's a lot of the first things that hit you in your face is the truth. The lies you've been living your whole life, what you've been believing every single day, waking up, and now all of a sudden it just stops. And all of a sudden the world is different now because you've been told the truth. And it changes everything. It changes everything of how you thought you lived your life too. Everything is on the table. Everything's up for question. Everything is in a spin. It's like, it's a lot of pressure. And a lot of people don't feel they're confident to go through that process by themselves alone and deal with their own shit. And this is where a lot of people have just like drawn a line in the sand with themselves. They've gotten to that point, they're good with it. They're content. And this is the problem. Content, settling. humanity is basically, it's almost like someone who's tried to get to the goal and never made it. So then to satisfy themselves and their ego, they'll fall to contentment. Like, well, I maybe didn't make it there. I didn't make it achieve it maybe, but this is still good enough. It's like a lie we tell ourselves that this is good enough, but because we're not willing to push ourselves, but also we're in so much doubt and lack of faith and lack of trust in ourselves that we can actually make it to the goal. We can push ourselves. We are capable. We're strong enough, right? So we've gotten into this whole thing where it's not just a short attention span for humanity. It's a lot deeper than that. It's a short, like, support span for ourselves even too. We'll push a little bit and then it's like, okay, I'll give up. Quit. There's a lot of people out there. It's like they're just tired of pushing. They're tired of like giving effort to things that ultimately just blow up in their face. They can't explain it, and at the same time, it's like they just feel like fuck ups. Their parents tell them they're fuck ups. They think they're fuck ups. They're not going to be good parents. It's like this. Do you see where the generations are rolling out to? You see where the thoughts, if you don't grab those thoughts fast enough, it starts perpetuating through the generational cycle, almost to the point where it's like it'll become generational genocide on its own, just purely because humanity doesn't even want to be here. They don't want to live here. They want to be alive. You know, so many people committing suicide, you know, just like not wanting to be on this planet during these periods of time. They're very scared with what's going on, the news and everything that has to do with religious prophecies and you name it. Like, it might be a normal walk for you to the store and back home. For somebody else, this is probably like the most scariest week or year of their life, because they're so overburdened with the thoughts and the delusions and just the belief systems of what could happen, what's possible now in these moments, and what's going to happen to them. What are they going to have to do? What are they going to have to be prepared for? You know, what if it all does fall down and we just hit the shit and I have to get a gun and I have to do this? And it's like, you know, people will start going these places. They're like, well, do I have to protect myself? Do I have to do this? It's like, we can't go into this fight or flight mode, survival. What good is that going to do? Yet that's everything that the collective, you know, the deep state, the cabal, you know, this everything that they're trying to do is incite that behavior, is get humanity on their toes, get them spooked. You know, if I wanted them to think that it really was everything was on the brink, it was all about to collapse, I would spook the collective, right? It's like cattle, like a herd of sheep. Spook them, get them corralled in a certain direction, get them moving one way. And then once you got everything set up as the traps and everything along the way, then you guide them down those traps. And then like pancakes, one after another, flip, 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 flip. You see? It's like, it's very interesting. You know, the more you just watch, the more you see come out of what they're trying to do. And in a lot of ways I see it's like a very tactful, you know, exercise, you know, where you just kind of approach from the outer rim and slowly over moments you just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and you work your way into the center core of where everything is. But by the time the center core and the population figure out what's going on, all the parameters have already been locked down and vaulted. It's already been shut down. You know, so it's very fascinating watching what's taking place, you know. And of course, you know, Mom's got everything under control. It's all going according to plan. So of course it's an interesting play out. But I want to play this other video for you real quick. One moment. Here we go.
You have all the money in the world you need. You have all the power you need. What's the point? You know, what's the end goal? But I said the end goal is to controlling the world.
These people out here who believe in this worldwide Satanist conspiracy, okay?
Ye fools and priests, I spit upon your fire.
I became a pawn in a government scheme. His ultimate goal was mind control and to create the perfect spy.
Oh, you're talking about erasing people's memories.
The parents believe the boy is alive and has
just
been
kidnapped. 6 years old when she
All
died.
these people call me from all over the country telling me about the ceremony.
All of a sudden it becomes a satanic panic.
Breaking news. Governments are corrupt. They lie to their people, steal from their people, and occasionally kill them.
A new world order for ourselves and for future generations.
The Oliver Stone, George Bush connection. Oliver Stone.
Oh yeah, man. He's their spokesman.
While I doubt my father worked for the CIA, as a Vietnam veteran, my father saw a deeper state behind the scenes. And that's where I want to go.
A politician has to be very concerned with where their donations are coming from.
Spreads out like a spider web to Washington, D.C., involves some of the most respected and powerful and richest businessmen in this United States of America.
It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. What we had was unreal.
Procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
There was no indication to me.
It's over a $34 billion industry worldwide.
I was sold into a murderous pedophile network right around my 6th birthday. There were a number of aristocrats that were part of this club.
There are 200,000 children that end up in the sex trade every year. So it's the fastest growing criminal industry in the world.
Kinder.
A lot of things that I witnessed, secrets that you wish you didn't have to hold on to.
Hail Satan! Hail Satan!
If you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer.
And then these cats speak with forked tongue. Then you can see the lie written all over it.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
It is not crazy to assess news events to see if they're real or not real. And in fact, it's kind of crazy not to.
So what we see around us is actually an illusion. We're only looking at the tiniest sliver of what actually exists. We've been hoodwinked.
The greatest forms of human control is the suppression of the sense of the possible.
As Americans, we tend to believe this about other governments, but rarely, if ever, our own.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
We've allowed this to happen because we didn't know that there was another reality we could experience.
Yeah, man. It was interesting that one of the older guy, Phil, he said one of the biggest things to control is suppressed, what did he say? Suppressed, what did he say? Oh yeah, one of the biggest things to control is the suppression of the sense of what is possible. And that's powerful. If you have an entire population and their concept of what is possible within their reality is controlled and yet also has a cap, has a ceiling that you have constructed, that you have built a box basically that to them, when they think and what is possible to them in their concept and their intellectualization of life and what they are, what they're capable of, it's constructed, it's told to them, it's taught to them, they're trained and conditioned in that sense to where you have suppressed what's possible. If that suppression didn't exist and the collective truly could believe and see a higher timeline, believe in things that were way beyond, and also know that they were possible, that there's a whole different reality that we could exist by choice in, that's very possible and they can choose that. If they were truly fully informed in that way, we wouldn't be here, all right? And so it's important what he said is, and this is where we were, the first video with like the bookshelves. I mean, not the bookshelves, the food shelves, the store, and like going through the store and like all these shelves are starting to like look empty and bare, and like there's a food shortage, and the ports are blocked, so then now the stores can't restock and replenish, so then now there's limited resources, which gets the collective on their tippy toes, and everyone starts getting anxious and scarce about like being friends, helping each other out, like start being mean and like just abusive to each other, like fighting for resources and everything. That's what the whole point of like the suppression of what is possible. If you are living within a predetermined reality, a predetermined idea of what's already going to come out of the situation, then by the time they have these things hitting the news, store shortages, things like that, people have already predetermined what they're going to react on, what they're going to say, how they're going to behave. These things are already predetermined, and that's what sets into motion, where people are literally just acting out on relapse of what was already something before. Fear, trauma, pain, suffering, lack, victim consciousness, all of that. And they're just like, it's like pressing a button, and they play it out, and these things are meant to like induce a high amount of fear within the collective, where they go spend a lot of money, they buy up the resources, they play more into it, because then it's one thing if you're kind of like pushing this through the stores and everything, that you're creating the environmental impression that this is happening or this is going to happen. Yet, if you get the people to buy into it, if they're going to the store, buying up all the limited resources, now there's no more toilet paper, now there's no more canned food, oh my gosh, if you get people to buy into it, and they're going to the store and buy, and you get them on film and stuff like that, it's like, oh look, everyone's hitting the stores, everyone's like buying all the resources, we can't keep the shelves, full, and it adds more to the panic, because now once people see like everybody else is getting into it, then it's like, oh, I better go to the store and get my toilet paper. I'm gonna, it's like it just starts pulling everyone more into the conformity and like that dysfunction, where they pick fear first before intuition, discernment, feeling into it, being able to observe and see what's going on, not just being surface and getting pulled along with the current. So definitely big points with that one. There's another video I had, but we'll play it tomorrow. I didn't get it on the tablet in time. Little funny thing. I had posted it and sent in everything like that. I guess it just didn't make it into the right folder that I had thought it went into. So I'll have to do some digging and find which folder it went to later. But yeah, I really enjoyed definitely conversation last night. I was doing the live broadcast last night and on Telegram too, and there's quite a few good questions that people had. And I feel one of the biggest things just to like really keep in heart in these moments for all of you out there, especially ones that are very still much connected to family and still either live with family or, closely interact with family, almost every day or just off and on through the week. You have a closer relationship or just communication, definitely has nothing with being weary, but definitely be light on your feet, okay? And that's really just coming from my heart. It's just to all of you, just be light on your feet. And, definitely be prepared to let anything and all things go. Don't attach. Don't take things as personally as it definitely can you feels you should. Just be very quick at just letting things go and moving through it. The energies now, they're sweeping up. They're going to be intense, and it's going to be emotionally challenging in a good way. In a very good way, it's going to be emotionally challenging to a lot of us, to where it's going to challenge us to grow, to mature beyond where we're at. We can't keep just playing the same scenarios out. We can't keep playing the same old broken record and expecting ourselves to get somewhere new, or, at the end of the day, it's like, who are you playing yourself for? A fool for? Like, for what? You're not a fool. You're a very smart individual. You're very intelligent. God made you very brilliant, and you're just very creative. You just are so much in procrastination and self-sabotage that you can't see it, because you're wasting all of your energy on things that absolutely don't benefit or suit you right now. So if we can just make those simple changes and apply ourselves, right? Put simple, easy practices forward, get ourselves back more in the flow. Okay, where are you at? How are you feeling? What are you up to? What do you need to do? What do you need to work through, right? If that's not your main focus, even in a day, come on, you are not this science experiment that you get to check up on every Saturday and evaluate. Like, you should be walking and moving with yourself through this whole process and healing and letting things go. The more conscious aware you are, and this is the key. This is the key, right? We get into this point where we just try to move past real quick and just put it behind us. Okay, let it go and just put it. No, you have to look at it. Okay, we are in a conscious ascension, okay? This physical ascension that's occurring right now, it's consciously aware, right? The more aware and consciously awake you are, the faster the energy accelerates. The quicker you wake up, the more things come online, right? If you're still playing this hot potato game with yourself, where you're trying to like hold it in one hand, toss it in the other hand, and throw it around your back, and just you're playing games with yourself, you're not. It's nothing to do with being serious, but you're not focusing. You're not applying yourself. You're playing cat and mouse with yourself, in and out, and it's not. It's slowing you down. Okay, so many things. It's just slowing you down. You know, face it head on. Be brave. Have courage, and and learn to just like trust yourself, because the big tests and challenges that are coming, they're gonna help you get all this cleared out. Okay. In order for us to move through, especially as Scorpio season is coming up in just a few weeks, that whole cliff dive is going to be something of a interesting experience for everybody. So this is getting everyone prepared. The emotional challenges that are coming up is getting everything triggered off the board panel, pressing all the buttons, getting it all out on the table, express it, cry it out, scream it out, hit a pillow, whatever you got to do, get it out of yourself. Quit letting it just boil over and over again within you, causing you also to amp up and get full and just over, spent. You don't need to go into those kinds of situations or scenarios with yourself. Just love yourself a little bit more, to where you pay attention, let yourself express, breathe, release, relieve yourself, and relax, calm down. It doesn't have to be this insane rush through life and make it to the finish line. There's a lot of moments you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to be very compassionate and nurturing with yourself, because also they require, reflective moments. Very present, observant, reflective moments. These are special moments for yourself, because as you are growing, as you're breaking out of your shell, you're becoming the new authentic version of yourself. It's special. There's a lot of things that are coming online that you haven't seen before, and a lot of things that you probably haven't expressed since childhood. There's a lot of things that you've had to be an adult for. There's a lot of things you've had to be tough and defensive and just have a really, thick wall up for. So as those start to come down and you start to feel more fluid, more natural and childlike, there's parts of yourself that are coming through, and it's like it's been forever, and it's going to catch you by surprise. It's going to bring a big smile to your face. And a lot of people have already experienced that, because it is the real you coming back online. It's finally being appreciated. It's finally being honored and respected. You're finally supporting yourself. You're finally pushing yourself forward and applying yourself and feeling great, fulfilled, purposeful with what you're doing in your life and yourself. And you're a better human being because of it. A better, greater version of yourself. That's going to make the true, authentic version of yourself come more out. And just keep working with that. Keep expressing it. Keep staying in that space and honoring it, giving more space to that versus your lowers. And just see what happens. See what grows. It's going to be magical and beautiful for everybody. Dang, I had that video. Oh, that's so sad. I really wanted to show that one video. Where are we going on a trip? Oh, I was reading the comments on the Telegram. That was a question, but no, they were just making a joke. There was this other video that someone had sent me on Telegram. It was basically like, I don't know where it was. It was in an airport, and you know how you come on the intercom and they're like, well, so and so, for flight, whatever, and then please come to claim your baggage and stuff. So basically, someone, I don't know if it was like someone who works there or someone just like happened to make their way to the intercom, but they got on there like, excuse me, they're like, will Trump won and you know it? I said again, Trump won and you know it. Will you please come over here? And it was like, it was so smooth. And I was watching a bunch of people. They were looking at their phones. I don't even feel like they fully like like it hit the like did that just happen? You know, did someone just come on the whole intercom and say that? You know, it didn't look like there's any triggered people, so I guess they're Trump fans too, I guess. So, you know, but it's just funny though, you know, this whole thing is a massive production show. You know, of course, yes, real things are happening. People are getting hurt. People are not happy. They're in pain and suffering. Things are going crazy. No one's denying that. But it is a massive show it's playing out. It's playing itself out with all the necessary outcomes and experiences that everyone in this country and cities and on this planet are asking for to wake up, to, you know, to be shown the truth. You know, a lot of people want proof all the time. It's like you're about to get some serious physical proof right in your face that's not going to be deniable, and it's probably not going to feel good, and you didn't have to go that far just to say, I told you so, right? You didn't have to go that far just to prove yourself right or prove yourself wrong. You know, the depths that people will go through because they're so stubborn and they're so resistant to allowing people to help them and support them, yet also they're just so stuck in competition and wanting to do it their own way and stubbornness. It's like those things are all coming to a halt. I remember Mom shared it was actually it was a little over 3 years ago, where it was like one of the first couple months on mission where, you know, Mom was talking about the energies on the collective on the planet and how they had changed now. She had changed it inside the actual energy to where everything that is in support of unity on this planet is supported by creation. Anything that goes against unity is automatically, it's not supported at all. You know, so it's kind of like the difference between, like, you know, you having a massive truck carrying a boulder to the top of the mountain, or you're trying to roll a big boulder by yourself up a mountain. Is kind of the difference, and it's a pretty good one, you know, because that's exactly what it's like energetically. If anything you are energetically doing on this planet for yourself or anything in your life, if it has nothing to do with unifying people, if it has to do with tearing people apart, coming against them, hurting other people, you will have no support from all of creation. You will experience the biggest turbulence of your life, you know, because that is not what is being supported or allowed or decreed in creation to continue, right? So now at this point, it's like everything that is in support of 5D, love everywhere present, unity, you know, compassion, nurturing, unconditional love, trust, truth, all those things, that's what's being supported. So anyone that is making efforts in that direction, anyone that is pushing themselves or helping support other people in this manner, in this perspective, is supported by all the creation, just simply because you are within that alignment of that energy. You know, and so if people could just make the right choices, if they could just make the right energetic choices for themselves, you know, get themselves on the highest timeline and the right energetic flow, so many things can manifest and happen for you if you just get out of your own way. You know, all the control, all the trying to predict and trying to expect things and trying to analyze it all out before you say okay or try to greenlight it with God is like, it's already happening. Like, the whole reason why it's happening now in your life anyways is because God already said, all right, send it through, greenlight. So the whole fact that you're like battling it and debating about it the whole time while it's happening, it's like, it's already too late. It's been sent through. And so all this extra energy you were wasting trying to combat the inevitable of what you had ultimately asked for deliverance on, it's like, it's futile. It's like this control drama with the ego. It's like, okay, please, please, please. But then when it comes, like, no, I don't want it. No. It's like, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to do this all day, every day, around. This ends today, right? So these collective energies coming in definitely going to put the pressure on everyone and really stampede the ego out in a lot of ways emotionally, because emotionally we are we're not emotional creatures. However, humanity is very emotionally driven because we have so much trauma, because we were so fucked up. There's so much dysfunction, you know, that we have in our conditioning and programming. So, and naturally it's already set in that way, you know. But as we are waking up, as we are processing and transforming it, we are, you know, there comes many opportunities where you probably will revisit these lower memories in your life. But it's also an opportunity for you to flip it to a higher perspective, a higher idea. You know, what can it be now? Obviously, it was what it is. Obviously, you can't go back in time. There's no time travel right now for you to change any of it. So you're just going to have to accept it. And you don't have to do it with such a sour face either. You can smile. Just smile and look at yourself like, well, I freaking made it. Regardless of what it is that you're pouting about, you still made it. You're still standing there. You're still breathing. You're still living. And that's an achievement, right? So quit being so salty all the damn time about everything and just be grateful for your life and where you're at. And that you can do better. You can change it all. But if you're going to sit there and bitch about all the different things that are not adding up to what you want, or they're not turning out the way you thought it was going to, well, yeah, sure, you keep saying that, it'll never work out for you, right? At some point, you just got to stop, pull the emergency brakes completely on this thing, and turn it around. Quit going the same direction as you already know it's not working out, but you're still just want to ramble on and on and on and keep going into self-sabotage. It's like, there's no point to that anymore. We love ourselves way too much to keep ending up in these situations where we cause more pain to ourselves, more confusion, more stress. We don't need to go through that anymore. God has gone through everything to help our children, us children, make it to 5D. So a lot of it just is letting go. It is trusting that there is a higher reality. There's a new way of doing everything. There's a better way of loving each other. And all we have to do is just learn it. It's very simple. No one is too old or too stupid or too lazy or too dumb or, nobody is anything to be able to learn a new way to love. Everyone is allowed that. Everyone has access to that. And it is the new way for creation moving forward for this entire human race. It's not a choice. It's not optional. You may think it is yet in these moments because you still think you have your free will. However, God has already spoken, and the decrees of heaven, all the company of heaven, the decrees of heaven have already been shared and spoken many different moments over the last couple of years to where that is the new way of life moving forward. This is what is sanctioned on this planet and which will be allowed and granted on this planet moving forward. So it's not really just us. It's everyone in creation. It's a lot of people to challenge if you have an objection to that. So it's the best thing if you ask me. Love everywhere present, literally everywhere. Nothing but love. That's paradise. If you want anything else, if you want lower than that in your existence and experience, that might be a red flag, and we are not going to put you in a leadership seat because you have some things to look at, because that's got to go. That lower nature in humanity it is so obsolete. I remember Mom shared one time that the ego was necessary at one point, and I remember studying about the ego a lot of times in the earlier years. And yes, at some point it was meant for human survival. At some point, yes, humanity was so bad and so atrocious and so horrible to each other to where we were mean, we were cruel to each other. Not even a century ago, even before that. So at some point, yes, the ego was necessary. So yes, of course, we looked after ourselves. The ego, of course, looked after itself. It made sure we had everything we needed, made sure that we were happy, made sure that we got what we needed or what we wanted. And in a certain way, that was necessary for human survival and evolution as we made it through that gap in moments, Because if everyone's just out to get everyone and taking, it's not a unified civil environment, then of course you have to make sure the population itself survives. They don't take each other out or themselves. So the ego was this internal design within the being to make sure that no matter what extremes or circumstances you were placed in, that you still looked out for you. You still looked out for what you wanted, what you needed, and ultimately in a lot of ways that was requirements for living. Bathing, food, water, those different things. So yes, the ego had its part at some point in the human evolution. But also, like Mom stated, it's like the chicken and the egg. The ego is the egg, right? We're the chickens. We're hatching out of that. We no longer need the egg anymore. And so, like with evolution, even something that has served us, and even something that has benefited us for a long time throughout our reincarnations on this planet, throughout the different generations, even if something that has benefited and protected us in a lot of ways, once we reach a certain point in our evolution and growth, we start to outgrow those boundaries. And when you start to outgrow the boundaries that are set for you, it starts to interfere. Those boundaries and walls start to become a hindrance to you. It starts to interfere, it starts to affect your growth and your expansion, because that wall there was, up to that point, set there to protect you, was set there to help you buffer and just be in your own little space and just, be self-preserved, Now that you're growing beyond that, you no longer need that and no longer need those lower ways of survival because you have evolved and grown beyond that. The egg shell still has to crack. You have to crack it and break it open. And that's a lot of times where the ego tries to get in the way, and it still tries to do what it was designed to do, which was to look after you mostly in a self-preserved type of way, which also is selfish, self-important, only looking out for you. Ego. So you can see now at this point, as humanity is stepping up back into our divinity, the ego cannot follow because its design is part of a lower reality that we are leaving. So as we are moving up in divinity, the ego is dissolving because it's part of an old paradigm, old reality, and we're outgrowing that part in its use. So I understand where there's a lot of people in the spiritual community and they get very defensive and protective about this particular topic, and they're like, oh, well, you have to grow with your ego. You have to, make your ego your friend, and it's not something bad, and you're supposed to, expand your ego. And it's like they take it too far, and this is where people get attached to, different forms of teaching and information, and they don't fully understand what they're reading or learning about. They just jump on it, and then they open their mouth and share it with somebody else. No. Yes, very much so. At one point, the ego was beneficial to our survival and our way of life and evolution. However, within the last 50 plus years, it has become obsolete, no longer needed. Humanity is fully capable of exercising full divine capabilities and stepping into that divinity, which will, of course, in counteraction, dissolve the ego, which as it should be. So there's a lot of things that are shifting as people just become more aware and receive more clarity, receive more awareness and discernment on what's going on. Then they can make the proper adjustments and just move with that flow. So I feel a lot of times with misinformation is why the world is so scattered the way it is. Once people just become more aware and actually have clarity on certain topics, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense, yeah. And they jump on board like that, like quickly, So I feel we just got to keep putting it out there. Just got to keep sharing and talking and expressing and putting out there for everyone to receive and hear and connect with. And the more and more they constantly expose themselves and immerse themselves into that high vibration, high consciousness energy, it's going to start pinging things off. It's like, oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah, I've got that. Oh, I thought about that before. You got to get them inspired, motivated, start moving in that direction, and then the rest of it's just organic. The body will start picking it up and start moving on its own because it remembers what the blueprint is, right? So I love you all. You all are beautiful people so very much. I enjoy being on here with all of you every single time, and definitely we will be back with you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Mountain Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Time with Buddha and Jeri. And yeah, till next time, folks, I love you all. Thank you all for Telegram, Facebook, YouTube, everyone. Have a beautiful night. Ceremonies, ground, drink lots of water, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves.